name is William Millhiser, or Will, and I am on the negative side of the claim that physician-assisted suicide. First of all, my speaker brought up, or my opponent brought up the fact, or the issue that people have a right to choose their own death. I'd like to counter that with first saying that death wishes are based usually on a lack of support, of understanding by the individual and society, and death is not a free choice. We believe that the legalization, in a quote by Dr. Gregor Wolbring, who wrote an article called Why Disability Movements, Rights Movements Do Not Support Euthanasia, it's that people in that organization believe that the legalization of euthanasia will force people to be euthanized in a misbegotten effort to do the right thing, to save their loved ones from financial ruin, to remove family members from the caretaker role, and to cease them being a burden of the state. They believe that the majority of death wishes are based on a lack of support and understanding for the individual by society. Also, that patients' judgments can be impaired by depression and demoralization. Requests are likely to emanate from patients experiencing significant distress at the close of their lives, whose judgment is impaired by the painful effects of terminal illness. Clouded by the painful effects of terminal illness, or clouded by the side effects of medical treatment, and warped by clinical depression through demoralization. My opponent also brought up the fact that it's an issue of autonomy, is that it's a person's right to self-rule. Well, first I'd like to say that physician-assisted suicide is not an issue of autonomy, because it involves the second or another party. It's not just involving one person. Those who make a moral decision or moral choices certainly have no right to be assisted in carrying them out. It's asking someone to murder you, so it's not a self-ruling issue. It's if you're involving somebody else. Also, an individual's autonomy is already restricted by criminal law. Instances of individual autonomy are being restricted daily by the criminal law, even when the act in question is not seriously immoral, such as driving a car without a seatbelt. That's an issue of your personal autonomy that is restricted by law. Third, decisions for PAS or physician-assisted suicide are not truly, they're not, like I said, not truly autonomous. Requests are not autonomous but result from depression or inadequate palliative care. And that in any event, the value of autonomy lies in making not making just any choice, but choices which are consistent with the framework of sound moral values. Raphael also brought up that there's cultural stigma attached and religious stigma attached to physician-assisted suicide. I'd like to bring up that according to the United Methodist Church's Book of Discipline, which is a leading religious institution, the use of medical technologies to prolong terminal illness requires responsible judgment about when life-sustaining requirements truly support the goals of life. Basically what they're saying is that they don't necessarily agree that you have to be on, you don't have to extend your life through certain means, but you don't end it. There's no moral or religious obligation to use those life-extending machines basically to impose undue burdens or extend the process of dying. They believe that dying is more a natural, it's part of life. It's something, it's an experience. You're born and then you die, and there's ways to deal with that without physician assistance. There's also an important view from the Islamic position. According to Islamicity, on an article on euthanasia, patience and endurance are highly regarded and highly rewarded values of Islam. When means of preventing of alleviating pain fall short, the spiritual dimension can be very effectively called upon to support the patient who believes that accepting and standing unavoidable pain will lead to his or her credit in the hereafter, the real and enduring life. Whether or not you're religious, I mean, it's the value. Part of life is suffering too, and unfortunately, the cruel reality of what we live in. in the world we live in. Basically, they were, enduring it. And then also, finally, the Oregon model. I'd like to bring up the Oregon law, the Right to Die Act. My opponent stated that the Right to Die law serves, or basically the Right to Die law serves as a model for other states or other people to bring. Oregon's own Medical Association of Doctors actually opposes the law now. According to the American Medical Association in the article American Medical News, members of the Oregon Medical Association have now voted to oppose the 1994 state law, which allows physicians to assist suicide. The law was approved by voters but passed by a narrow margin. And many analysts believe that the Oregon Association basically had a neutral stance at the time of the voting, and their neutral stance contributed to voter support. A new bill may bring the issue to another vote because legal challenges have blocked its implementation. It's actually passed since then, but the Oregon Association has announced its opposition as of now. Oregon's law, which barely passed, paved the way for Washington's equal controversial law. It basically went from Oregon up into Washington because the Oregon state basically condoned the law or it seemed that they condoned the law by letting it pass, so they moved on to Washington. It's kind of a slippery slope argument that once you get the ball rolling, it continues to roll faster and faster and spread. But there's already problems arising. Oregon's law, which barely passed, is now in Washington. However, doctors and hospitals in both states do not agree and are opting out of participation. Washington State, in an article called Washington State Allows Assisted Suicide by Dr. John Grohl, under the Oregon-Washington laws, physicians and pharmacists are required to write, or not required to write or fill lethal prescriptions. So if doctors are not agreeing and you can't get consistent health care through anybody, how is that going to work?